Morning, everybody. It's Dr. Kenton Wakes Up. I'm Dr. Kenton. Today is Saturday, March 1st, 2025. In the cup today is El Regalito from Aveley Farms with a little Coffeemate. It's delicious. So good. You thing that thing that I recognize as an adult human being is that you can learn a lot by asking a few questions, as long as the person on the receiving end of the question is willing to share the information they have. And, I understand that there are some things that might be considered trade secrets or other kinds of, protected information that you're not allowed to, as a normie or a, you know, whatever. You're not allowed, I'm not allowed to know everything I want to know. There are certain things that are withheld from me. But the thing, I'm listening to a podcast about, it's not about this, but to me it touches a lot of buttons on the dangers of trying to isolate people from information, to isolate people from talking about things that are important to talk about until they can until the person can make sense of them. um and I have a friend, a couple of acquaintances as well, who served in the Navy, in the submarine Navy, and the expectation with that has been, or had been, I don't, these guys are not active duty, but the expectation had been that you don't discuss anything about your service, and that to me seems like a recipe for disaster. I'm not allowed to discuss it. I imagine that if you um, happen to find yourself in a conversation with somebody who is on board your same boat, that you could talk about some of the things that happened when you were both on the boat together that you probably wouldn't be able to talk about otherwise. But it seems to me that, the longer you have as a career, the more things that you learn that you can't talk about. And that makes it difficult. You're it's normal, I think, for somebody to find out that you served the country and they want to know a little bit about what you did. And somebody finds out that you served aboard the submarine and they want to know, oh yeah, well, which submarines were you on? You know, oh, I know somebody who deployed about the same time. Do you? And my in the what was it, late '90s, I was very interested in cryptography and national security institution. And there was, I want to say that his name was Bamford, maybe Mark Bamford or something. He wrote a book called Palace of Secrets. I'm writing all this down because I know I'm going to have to fact check this. Palace of Secrets. And they talked about the capabilities of the NSA and some other things that the United States had done espionage wise, uh, that a person was able to find out about, and so on. And one of them was this uh, series of missions to lay take a submarine up one of the major rivers in territorial, at the time, Soviet Union, and lay this complicated, well, more or less a bug. You know, like you bug your phone. You have a recording device that, or a transmitter that is implanted on the phone, and then you have a receiver somewhere nearby that can record the stuff. Well, this thing was like the way I'm remembering it is just something like a telephone booth size. And for people who are younger than me who don't know what a telephone booth is, oh boy. Imagine a structure that's about, let's say, 3 feet on a side, square, and then about 7 feet tall, maybe 8 feet tall. So something like that. And inside there used to be something that was called a pay telephone. Pay telephone, you say? Yes. At a time, if you were out and about, you could slide a few coins into a pay telephone and make a phone call to check in with loved ones or let somebody know that you need help or whatever. There's still one active on campus in the building where I work. So anyway, there's this device that was about that big that they could lay across this subsea telecommunication cable that went from one branch. It's like connecting an isthmus with the mainland, and there was an undersea telecommunication cable going across this. I don't know. I'd call it like a bay or an inlet or whatever. It's where the a river dumped into the ocean. And after I after I read about this, my ex-wife's dad was in the diesel submarines in the late 60s, early 70s. And when I told him about this book that I read, he said, "Oh, yeah. We used to go up those rivers all the time and blah, 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 we get chased out by destroyers and blah, 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 you know." And this was all stuff that he was not allowed to talk about. And I found out later that one of the boats he served on, and I don't know if it was while he served on it or not, but one of the boats he served on had received a presidential unit citation for one of these similar type of missions. Anyway, he's not allowed to talk about any of that. And when I had a conversation with him, it was 25 years after the fact or more. Not allowed to talk about it. And my guess is that that type of protection of our, I guess, of our capabilities, of our activities, that's important. But I would hope. I've never served in the Navy. I've never served in the armed forces. But I'm hopeful that instead of just telling people that you're not allowed to talk about it, that they're given some sort of coping mechanism for dealing with. You learn later that maybe one of those missions you ran had a huge negative outcome, and you're not allowed to talk about it. That kind of thing weighs on a guy or anybody really. So, and it's a similar deal. I don't know. I get the sense from I used to, when I was the assistant dean. There was a brand new student center for veterans in the building where I worked, and the guy who ran it, his name was Pat Young. and it's not, his name's not important really for this conversation, but it was him. He later ran for House of Delegates in Maryland, and I don't know exactly what he's up to these days. He might be more county level politics rather than state level. In any event, he was a Marine. I don't know what the proper protocol is for talking about somebody who served honorably as a Marine and is no longer in active service. Do you call him a former Marine? He's not an ex Marine. I think ex means that you've been involuntarily separated. Anyway, he's no longer active duty. He served in the Marines. He served in the, I want to claim, the Battle of Fallujah. The big one, the bad one. Um, I asked him one time, I mean, they spend a lot of time during basic training teaching people to remove the inhibitions that are naturally in you to avoid killing other people so that you are able, when you need to pull the trigger on somebody and so on. And I asked him, is there any kind of exit training to turn that off when you are separating, like retiring, not just ending your enlistment, because I understand that sometimes you finish your enlistment contract in what they call the inactive reserve, and they may call you back. So they don't want to have to retrain you up, or, in failing an official set of training steps to help people reacclimate to the life that you're going to lead as a ordinary citizen. Do they provide you access to that kind of training or professional development or whatever you want to call it? Do they provide access to that through the VA? So that, one of the things that veterans at the time had talked about as a major challenge was that they felt like they were disconnected from, well, everything. During the active duty times in the military, there were a lot of people who knew who you were, knew what your job requirements were, and had no compunction about asking you why you weren't doing XYZ. There were people who knew what you were supposed to be doing, and they checked in with you constantly. And then when you separate from the service, there's nobody providing that same level of oversight or support as a average human being in the greater society. And so some guys struggle with the transition. uh I just, it, to me it seems like the more that you try to keep hidden, or the more you expect somebody to hold on to your secret for them, the more you are putting upon them to reduce your burden. And what I'm hopeful is that there's a mechanism in place that allows people to find relief from that, so they're not having to carry all those burdens. Maybe there's maybe you made contact. You did something. Uh, I don't know anybody in this, but let's say somebody's in the Balkans and they went on a mission and it resulted in a lot of bad outcomes. A lot of civilians got injured or killed. And you're not allowed to talk about it because it wasn't supposed to go that way, and so on and so on and so on. Army, Navy, Marines, whoever's involved doesn't want their reputation damaged by being associated with it. The question then becomes, you as a human being are aware of the outcome. you're not allowed to talk about it with, well, anybody. So you're just supposed to carry that. And I can't, I don't know the story behind all the folks who are engaging in suicidal behavior these days after separating and so on, but my guess, it would seem to me like they don't know where the resources are that might help them. They don't know that it's okay to seek out help. They've been told something like, you need to keep this quiet, you can't talk about it, that's the last we're going to say anything. And that's, there I would hope that there's a way that a guy can maybe check back in with the mothership. You can call somebody in your branch of service. I have this. I'm finding that I have problems dealing with, you know, my role in a top secret or classified, or whatever you want to put on it, an aspect of my service that's really troubling me. There should be somebody, I would think, it seems logical anyway. There should be somebody in the infrastructure who can hear the comments and be the sounding board for these guys so that they have a place, an approved place that's, the person who's hearing it is allowed to hear it. The person who's hearing it is allowed to give them guidance and support. The person who's hearing it is allowed to, help the person engage with and recover from the problems they're having. I have a sense that that's not occurring, or if it is occurring, no, not enough people know about it. So anyway, that struck me this morning listening to this podcast about how um, there's such a there's such a premium put on keeping secrets that I think that it puts a lot of pressure on people in a way that they're probably unable to deal with it in some cases. Not everybody needs this kind of help, and I would hope that that's pretty clear. I the things, my dad served in the, what was it, the uh, he graduated from high school in 58. I think that he tried to go to college for a little while and got sick, and then he received a draft notice letter. I don't think his number was that low, but he wanted to, instead of worrying about getting drafted, he just enlisted in the Air Force. He served in Morocco and Madrid and wherever. I'm sure there are plenty of things that he saw or heard about or participated in or whatever that he was told not to talk about. And I don't know if it affected him negatively or not, but it would be nice. We have There's the technology. Technology is our friend on this, I think. That a person should be able to pursue some help in an official capacity just because they served, that they can call in and a person on the end of the line is able to hear all that needs to all they need to hear, and they are then able to help the person process the stuff. Anyway, i I might be talking out of my butt. I think that we owe our veterans a little more than what they're getting now, and it really concerns me that the current administration being so uh, on one face, making such a huge noise about being pro veteran and pro active duty and so on, they just turn their back. In reality, they're cutting the strings that people have access to health care and all that other thing. It's deplorable, really. These guys were willing to, well, and ladies, these people were willing to put their life on the line for the country. Um, that's not nothing. It's important that we are mindful of that and that we do what we can to help people stay whole. All right, that's it. Uh, enjoy your Saturday, everybody. Love you. Bye.